welcome to New Filmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker magazine. I'm delighted to be joined by the wonderfully talented Susan with her fantastic documentary, The Cat and the Hat. But for those that haven't seen it, let's take a look at a clip.
How many hats do you have?
Over 100. My mother taught us to dream big. And she always said, good manners will get you further than money.
Susan, I just want to give you a big hug to say thank you for making this film. Thank you for, I'm thinking about your film, like ever since I've seen it, it's touched my heart. But for those that haven't seen your documentary, tell us a brief synopsis.
Well, it's basically a 15-minute short about a really amazing woman who has hundreds of hats, beautiful church hats that are each one a piece of art and sculpture, and they're just beautiful. But underneath those hats, she's this amazing civil rights leader. For 40 years, she was the head of the NAACP in Nyack, New York. She's a real leader nationally, and she's a very great role model for all of us today, I think, is as how you can stand strong with grace and style and beauty and wisdom. And, you know, it's really a story about her life and voting rights. Right now it's timely because it's really, she talks about that the most important thing is voting. That's all that matters. Get out the vote, let's vote, you know, it's really, that's the message in the end.
I mean, she is an incredible human being and has the most infectious smile that makes you smile I've ever seen in my life. You were telling a little bit about the film festival, about how this came together, and it fascinates me. Tell us a little bit about how it came together, and then your inspiration to turn this, this wonderful subject of yours turn it into a film.
Well, I've been a filmmaker in the past. For 20 years or so, I was a line producer, a production manager, director, a producer. I ran a company called Cineville many years ago. And for 20 years, I haven't made a film. I took a break. I raised my family. I've become an environmental activist. I've been involved with the closing of a nuclear power plant and an environmental attorney. So that's taken up quite a bit of my time. And in that life, I end up having to go to these political events and these political dinners, which are really dull. I mean, they're really just a bunch of, suits sitting around congratulating themselves, of their politics. And anyway, I'm at one of these events that somebody dragged me to, and I turn around, and there's this beam of color and light just brightening up the corner of the room. And I was just drawn to her, and I walked right over to her, and I was like, oh my God, you're so amazing. Can I photograph you? And that led to her telling me that she had hundreds of these hats. And I was like, I have to photograph the hats. And so it evolved as just like, we developed this amazing friendship. And I ended up, realizing she was a woman of so much important wisdom and knowledge that we had to share somehow. So it ended up becoming a movie as just being drawn to this beacon of hope, really. She's a beacon of hope and light and color in our sort of dark world that we're in today.
Yeah,
So,
she really is. And I mean, firstly, I love how you incorporated, some of photography in the film, because I just really just found every shot that was taken so captivating. Like, it really was. And she is just such a, like, I mean, it shines through the screen of how powerful her presence is. Like, it's an experience, she's literally our cover page on the website right now. And every time I see it, I get tingles because I'm just, of all she's done and accomplished. For you personally, like, what a journey for you. You got there and you want to say how I'd love to photograph you, to turning into a film, and then discovering the incredible work that she has done throughout her career and her life. That must have been such a wonderful experience for you to kind of journey on as well as a director.
Yeah, it was really wonderful, and I mean, we only shot the whole thing in about 2.5 days because
Wow.
in after the first day she ended up with pneumonia, so we had to stop, and then
Wow.
COVID happened, so it changed the whole way I shot it. But I always knew that I wanted to be very stylized around the hats because she's a woman that really truly wears a million hats in the community, and I could have followed her around and done a documentary about this event and that thing she speaks at and this and that, and I felt that that's a typical documentary. I want to tell her story in a different way. That's really, the hats helped with that. It really did.
And how when you're making a documentary film in this nature, like how do you work with your subjects? Obviously, there's got to be quite an element of trust in there as well. How's your kind of process for you, Susan?
It's just being really present and being like, really being like, when I say I'm going to do something, I get something done for them. Being reliable, I guess is the word, and just really developing trust and communication. I mean, um, she has a busy life, I have a busy life, but we have this really amazing friendship. We've gone to a couple of film festivals together. She loves going to film festivals. It would be, if this had been in person, she would have wanted to come out, which, and show her hats. And, she's pretty amazing. My dog's growling. Can I let her out for a
Oh,
second?
please, of course, yeah. Usually my cats are meowing or something, so don't even worry about it. It's all good.
She goes crazy all the time. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem at all. No problem at all. Making this project, and by the way, thank you for all you're doing to support the environment that we're in. It's very important. We're at critical times, and so thank you for your service in supporting that as well. What was it like, kind of going back? I mean, you're obviously a very experienced filmmaker, but what was it like going back, into filmmaking again? How was that experience for you?
It was really amazing because I think life sort of forced me away from being able to be a filmmaker, and I was really heavily Me Too'd. I guess that's the word. Well, when I was a filmmaker, to the point that a film I directed with major talent was taken away from me, and we shot on film at the time, and they edited it without me, and they put a man's name on as the director. So that was like really a painful experience. So, along with other things, it was time for me to leave the industry for a while. And so coming back and making my first film again was so inspiring. It was so heartwarming. It made me realize, like, God, I really am a filmmaker. This is in my heart. This is what I've always been. And it was so rewarding. I can't even, just the whole process of it. It was like, oh yeah, I know this. It's like riding a bike.
It
It was
is,
like I got
yeah.
right back on, and I felt like, wow, this is my craft. And unfortunately now, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately, now I'm ready. I'm really ready, and I'm starting to do other projects, and I'm like, this is it. This is what I got to do now.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad to hear that, because yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've got a really tremendous style of the way it was delivered, on camera. I mean, it felt such intimacy, in just the feeling of her and what she's done and what she's experienced and what she continued to do, and how it inspires others. And I'm always fascinated. This one moment that you had together is result into a film, and now it's been put everywhere for everyone else to experience her and your work as well. And I'm so curious, like for you personally, what did you want your audience to take from your film?
I mean, my main reason to make this film after I made it, now that I look back at it, is really to share this information with people. Is that we have to, like she says, you have to, if they don't have a seat for you at the table, bring your folding chair. You
I love
know,
that, yeah.
show up and be present and be active. I've really learned to be an activist, and this is a film about being an activist in a very gentle, sort of nice way. It's like she never didn't take the challenge. When somebody was bigoted to her, she spoke out in a very ladylike, I have to say, way, but it made her point. Never didn't make her point. And that's the kind of activism we all need. We have to stop not talking about the stuff that is wrong. We have to say it, and that's the only way change happens. And that's really, that's what I think this film's really about.
And there's nothing more powerful than the power of the moving image to relay your thoughts and what's going on in the world and what's important to you. And I'm really genuinely very excited that of all your fantastic experience as a filmmaker, and now as an environmentalist on top of that, that we're going to be seeing more work as a filmmaker from you as well. So I am curious, what is next for you?
Well, I have a few different projects, there's always a lot of things percolating. I have some old things that I like to dust off and get done off the shelf. That one project I mentioned, I'd like to recut and re-release, which, would be really a healing for me personally. And I think it would be, it's a comedy, and I think people would like it. But what I started filming already, I just started shooting a little bit. I'm doing a slow film. Like, instead of trying to raise all the money at once, I'm just shooting as I can.
Yeah, I love that.
It's a feature, but it's a half documentary and half narrative. So I want to play with the language of film a little bit, and I have a couple of characters that cross over both worlds.
Wow,
But
that's so cool. I'm
and
so ready for that.
it's an environmental, it's a true thing that's going on, where there's a theft of New York City's water supply actually occurring right now, that
Wow.
as an environmental attorney I'm involved with. So it's a fascinating sort of true story with the underpinnings of an emotional story of romance and forced marriage and things of that, women's rights.
Oh my goodness, this is an important film, Susan. I'm so glad that you're making this. This is really, really good. And again,
It'll
until
take
we
a
put those,
while.
yeah, no, you know what? Until we put those stories out there, we need to be informed about all the things that are going on in our world and take care of our planet and each other and such. So I love that. And I'm just so curious, like, in your experience, there are filmmakers out there, particularly filmmakers that have just had to come through fighting their way to get their story heard and their voice heard and respected and appreciated. Do you have any advice that you could share with our filmmaking audience?
Well, I'm still struggling to get my voice heard, and it's, I mean, especially as a woman of my age, when I was a younger filmmaker, I was definitely put aside. And now I'm an older woman, and, you know, I've, I believe, like, maybe I need representation, maybe I need a manager. But I think today that, like, managers aren't going to be interested in me because I'm an older woman. So, so I'm not exactly sure I know how to give people advice on how to get their films made, except when I was producing for other people, you have to just believe in, I guess I'm giving myself advice as I'm saying this, but you just have to believe in what you're doing and figure out whichever way you get there. There's no only one way. The one thing about filmmaking is there's a million ways to get there, and a million ways to make it. And I had a teacher a long time ago named Haig Manoogian at NYU Film School, who was an amazing teacher. He started the film school, and he always said, like, film language is really young. We're 100 years into the language, and we're all learning how to use the language of film. So find the way you tell a story, find your language in the film. And
Absolutely,
that's the challenge,
absolutely.
I think.
Well, I mean, I hope that there's a continual change of the way the dynamics of this film industry is set up. Because the one thing that you have, Susan, that, no one else can take away from you is life experience, and that's such an important thing in developing, making film, in making these incredible stories. So I'm so excited you're making film again. It's a real pleasure, and you could put all that great experience you had, supporting the environment and combine that with filmmaking. And here you are, you're making a film that's, got an environmental perspective as well. So congratulations. But no, thank you for gifting us with the Pratt and the Hat. And I can't tell you enough how much I enjoyed it, and I'm so thankful you're making film. So thank you very much, Susan.
Well, thank you. I mean, there's like a million other films too that I'm trying to get made,
Yes,
projects, so
definitely.
I guess that's the other thing to tell people, is you got to try, you got to focus on one thing, but you got to keep all the balls in the air, because
Yes,
the thing that you least expect is going to actually happen.
that is too true. You never know which one's going to pop off first either as well. So absolutely. Well, it's been a joy. Welcome to the New Filmmakers family, and we're looking forward to seeing more of your work and having more of your work with us. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.